Hi, fellas, and good morning. Here we are, week 99, our last time in double digits. What do you know?
Wow.
Yeah,
7 chapters.
kind of funny. We're in chapter 7, but we're having a very good time. I am, and you guys must also be enjoying this, or you wouldn't be here. But let's get started. And I want to review two ideas. The first idea is right here, review 1 from last week. 7, 25, and 26. And we're going to kind of put this as a placeholder. And then we're going to look at review number 2, just briefly here, guys. And then we're going to go on a deep dive on review of that idea number 2. So just to help you remember, last week, our text was 7:25 through 27. To keep the context, we're going to expand that. Now, this week, it's 25 through 28a. We're going to look at that 28a, and it's a response to what's happening, Jesus's response in regard to 25 through 27. So here it says, therefore, some of the people of Jerusalem were saying, is this not the man whom they are seeking to kill? Look, he's speaking publicly and they're not saying anything to him. The rulers do not really think that this is the Christ, do they? So this is the time of the fall festival, the Feast of Booths, Tabernacles at the temple, and Jerusalem is buzzing with activity. And the crowd is not only observing Jesus, but they're watching this authority. This is important, and it's really illustrative of how we operate as human beings. Jesus, in a very broad scale, is under consideration. Jesus has come into the scene, and what the Gospels are about is recording the reaction of the people. We're calling this background the jungle, as our background shows. But Jesus is under consideration, and there's two groups within this story. There's the crowd and the authority, and they both have their biases. Their biases, their beliefs, are what holds them together, is what gives them unity. And in this case, we have the crowd representing blue, no political statement here, and the authority in red. And the crowd is looking at Jesus and the authority. What is also true that we will look at later on in this story and later on in this chapter is the authority is also observing the crowd. Now, this is true throughout the entire Gospels, not just an isolated event here. The authority is constantly monitoring what is the buzz in the crowd, in the other group. They both have their biases and they both are observing each other. Now, what's interesting here is that as the crowd looks at the authority, illustrated here, what comes back is they take what they see and it's informing their biases here. It's another input into their biases, which will then also then inform the view by the crowd. So that's how it works. It's kind of a feedback loop. And this is done either consciously or subconsciously, that they have given place. The reason I say given place is because they are looking at the authority. They're watching them. And I think this is very common to us as human beings, that we are constantly watching other people. And it could be consciously, it can be subconsciously, and it can be in a positive sense, and it can be in a negative sense. Another person can have a positive influence on our lives and that we want to mimic. And a person can also have a very negative influence on our life, and to the point where we want to do just the opposite of what they are doing or telling. but they still are influencing. So that was that idea. We mentioned Rene Girard, who's done a lot of work on this, and it's fascinating stuff. I have not read his original stuff yet, but I'm running more and more into people who are quoting him, and I'll probably pick up a volume written by Rene Girard and read him, for primary source. Here's review number 2, and this is what we're going to look at more fully today. And I'm calling this derived group think. Verse 27, however, we know where this man is from, but whenever the Christ may come, no one knows where he is from. And this is still review. What I brought out last week is the statement, we know where this man is from. As a crowd, Jesus is from Nazareth. They knew that. They could trace his roots. They could go to his father's carpenter shop, and it's definitive that he is from Nazareth. Plus, what I'm calling a projection. They're saying, but when the Christ may come, no one knows where he is from. Okay, this is not definitive. This is an opinion, a bias, although they are treating it as true fact. And what you have here is the known plus the projection equals a judgment. And this tells us a lot about, we can draw a lot of help for us, because this is so true of us human beings, how we formulate our judgments. So that's last week, and we're gonna take this idea and work with this second idea and go a little bit deeper. So could somebody read the text? I've already read a portion of it, but let's read the whole thing, 25 through 28a.
I gotta unmute myself. Therefore, some of the people of Jerusalem were saying, is this not the man whom they're speaking to kill? Look, he's speaking publicly, and they're saying nothing to him. The rulers do not really know that this is the Christ, do they? However, we know where this man is from. But whenever the Christ may come, no one knows where he is from. Then Jesus cried out in the temple, teaching and saying, you both know me and know where I am from, and I have not come of myself.
Okay, I abruptly, thanks, Bill. I abruptly stopped that verse right there, because I think we need to analyze the first section of verse 28 before we move to the second section. And that's why I just cut it off mid sentence here after a comma. So let's now again look at our second diagram, and we're gonna analyze each segment. So here's our first segment. The statement, we know where this man is from. And now we're isolating that and looking at it in a little more detail. So what I've got written there is, within the binary mind, and we've already talked about what this is, and we'll continue. My opinion is that the crowd is operating from this way of thinking. The binary mind, there can only be one place of origin. In this case, Nazareth. Therefore, Nazareth registers as true, or in our binary language here, in our binary analogy, it would be the numeral 1. 1 in binary, computer language is a 1. It means it's true. All other possibilities must be excluded. There cannot be two origins. If Nazareth is a 1, then all other possibilities are excluded. There can't be two 1s. And that's just logical thinking. That's binary thinking, which is not wrong. It's in many cases very, very helpful. However, we know this is where but when the Christ comes, this is, our second segment, and I'm reading here, right over here. In addition, the crowd holds, the plus sign, in addition, the crowd holds to their collective belief that the Messiah would have an unknown origin. And that's, of course, depicted right here. But when the Christ comes, no one knows where he is from. Their collective belief was just one of other theories circulating at the time. And because it's one of many, it's a projection. They're taking a theory and they're making it law. They're making it fact. That's what the whole idea. And what they are doing is something residing within is now being projected out onto Jesus. That's the idea of a projection. A projection originates from within, but it filters our way of seeing so that we're seeing it through that lens, that projected lens. And then finally in segment 2, and herein is the problem. This is the problem. The binary mind has a hard time deciphering between a known one and a projected one. This is where the rub is. This is where the difficulty is. And it wouldn't take too long for us to do a deep dive inside our beings and identify stories where, man, I thought I was so right. And in the end, oh man, I couldn't have been more wrong. Or I thought I had the whole picture, but once I heard the explanation, I realized there was another perspective. This is what we're talking about here. And then our third segment, so we take the known plus the projection, and it equals, in this case, this judgment. Thus, from their binary processing mechanism in their head, it was impossible for Jesus to be the Messiah. Impossible. And in their minds, case is closed. The gavel has hit the bench and the case is closed, and there is no further discussion. Now, this ought to be something. I saw the snicker with Vince there. Vince has a story, evidently, and I think we would all have stories of how we have participated at some level, either as a perpetrator or victim in one of these, in this kind of thing. And in my mind, what is happening here in the first century, in this plaza, in the temple, is something that has happened throughout history, and has happened multiple times in my life, in your life, and thus is our human dilemma that we're grappling with. An example of it. So here are my thoughts regarding this. It is always true. I'm making a definitive statement here. It is always true that 1 will never equal 0. Now, this is my belief. 1 is never a 0, and 0 is never a 1. There is a such thing as correct, and there is a such thing as incorrect. I think that's absolutely, not everything is okay. Not everything is right. There is a right. There is a not right. And I think that is important. However, and as seen here within our story, the binary mind tends to prematurely exclude, this is the key word right here, prematurely exclude, in order to satisfy its need to resolve. It's like this need within us as human beings takes over. And in my dad's words, it was this, and I heard this throughout growing up. It is not only no, but hell no. Yeah, it was case is closed. It's over. There is no further discussion. And what my dad was expressing so colorfully is it happens to me probably on a daily basis, where there's something inside of me that wants to drive the gavel to the bench and case closed. I'm tired of discussing it, especially during these difficult times when I know, guys, my fuse has been much shorter during this whole last year. I find myself irritated at things that would never bother me, things like grocery lines and being asked to show my ID at the bank after they've seen me, 200 times. Little things of irritation that are there, and that is this inward need to resolve, to judge, and to bring conclusion to the matter. This need, last sentence right here, this need to quickly resolve is helpful in many junctures. You're at a stoplight, and the light turns green. It's time to move, and there's got to be a decision. It's time to resolve that. The intersection has been resolved. You've got the green light. Time to move. But in some matters of life, this is what we are talking about. Some matters that include things like love and death and forgiveness and mercy and paradox, mystery, God, death, these weightier matters of life. Exercising only the binary mind can lead to destruction in relationships, destruction in a number of different things. And this, in my mind, is the primary conflict of what we are seeing here in this story. What Jesus is about to teach is that it is possible for two ones to coexist. Two ones. We know he's from Nazareth. Absolutely correct. But we also, what he's claiming is that he is also from the Father. And the binary mind really has a hard time with that. The two do not equal each other. Nazareth does not equal being the Word from the beginning. Those do not equal each other. However, they are both true. At least we are accepting that by faith. I believe it's true. The two do not equal each other, but they can reside together. This is what Jesus is saying. This requires a different way of thinking, what we are calling the mind of Christ. And as we talked a couple weeks ago, the way you just don't do Bible study and start thinking the mind of Christ. There must be a letting go. There must be, and it always feels like dying. This is where Remember in our model, at the end of stage 3 or level 3, there is a major dying. And it's what Jesus and the New Testament writers are talking about: the letting go, the grain of wheat, the picking up of the cross. There's got to be a letting go. And the result of that is that for the first time, we are open to including the negative. In their mind, in the crowd's mind, this idea that Jesus can be from another place is a negative. And they can't, they're not there. They are simply not there. And they are not there because of a letting go has to occur. And that is the last thing the human psyche wants to do, is to let go of control and open ourselves up. It's just too fragile. It's just too scary. And so this is what is causing them not to see. So let's take a look at this this mind of Christ, and we're going to do it this way. In verse 27, I've circled the word but. But is a key word that really indicates the binary way of thinking. But I cut a video segment from a movie called Pee-wee's Great Adventure, and I'm sure you guys have never seen it. I only watched it because my kids watched it. Pee-wee's Great Adventure. And there's a segment in Pee-wee's Great Adventure where Simone, this woman he met, they're talking, and Pee-wee is trying to give her advice to move on with life and to, it can happen, Simone. You can move to higher levels. And she responds and she says, but, you know, no, I can't. And Pee-wee Herman says, everyone I know has a big butt. And then he goes, this is a comedy. And then he says, Simone, let's talk about your big butt. Now, I didn't show the video just because I didn't know how it would come across here, but nobody's laughing but me, but I think it's hilarious. So anyway, everyone has their big butt. This but. The binary mind uses the word but to conclude a matter. But, okay, I remember younger people. I remember my teenagers telling me, Dad, I know where you're coming from, but. That's so funny. It means no. You know, it's a gavel. It's a driving it home and concluding the matter. And in so doing, when we use that word, it's falling short. It causes us to cut it off. And in so doing, we don't see the whole picture. We're ending discussion. I've made my judgment, and here it is. And therefore, no more discussion. TikTok, the game is locked. The word but. Then we move on to 28A. And 28A, notice I'm circling a different word. The word is and. And look how Jesus is using it. I really like this. It says, then Jesus, in response to what's happening, notice it says he cried out. Was he crying out in frustration? I think so. He was crying out in the temple, and he was teaching, and he was saying, you both know me and know where I am from, and I have not come of myself. Guys, that is a different way of thinking. Yes, I am from Nazareth. And you know me. I think he's saying, you've seen what I have done. I have demonstrated to you who I am. You have observed. And I'm saying, I have not come of myself. And is a word reflective of the mind of Christ, of the and has the power to hold but in tension until the entire picture can be seen. We're not moving the but. We're not getting rid of but. We're putting and ahead of but. There may be a time for a but. At some point, a judgment has to be made. There is a correct and there is an incorrect. But the idea through the mind of Christ, when we're exercising the mind of Christ, we're putting the and on the table prior to the but. And we're giving it a little time. And, you know, if you're in a conversation with someone who holds a really different view, a really good exercise is while they're speaking, rather than waiting to just use the but, try to think about 1% of what they're saying. Is there anything you can agree with? It could be their sincerity. I really appreciate your sincerity and your, and your thoughtfulness in expressing this. Start with an and. It will move the puck much more. But is a concluding word that often means stop sign. Often it's the gavel on the table. Whereas and is an inclusive word, and inclusive in the sense, you're not letting down your defenses. You're trying to initiate, you and I, further discussion. It invites closer. And has the power to hold. This is why and is so powerful. It can hold things in tension. This holding power sometimes delays judgment until more data. That's a not so fast, not so fast. At other times, it serves as a gateway to extend mercy, where it says Jesus was moved with compassion. The word and can be a gateway, a threshold into that, extending mercy or forgiveness. Yesterday, I was just fishing for an hour. I had an hour or so to kill. I was over in town. The water is running at 1,000 cubic feet per second now. It's really high. The river is what they call blown out now. And I just thought I'd play around for a while. And I was down by the engine lab and I walked along the sidewalk, and this dog was on leash, and the dog, because I had all my garb on and stuff, and he reached out, he grabbed my waders and he tore my waders. He bit me. And it really pissed me off. I was playing the scenario to this owner in my head, running the tape of, you idiot, where's your dog? And he says, oh, did he bite you? And I said, yeah, he did. And my response, I can cover it up pretty good. I'm pretty good at it. 67, I can cover up my anger. I've learned to do that. I've learned to hide that pretty well. But his immediate response is, man, I am so sorry. Did he tear your waders? I'm so sorry. And this is where I had to go, back off, Mike. Back off. rather than having write a check for, $400 for a new pair of waders, which actually I played in my mind. How can I capitalize on this? It was no problem. I'm okay. And I walked away. Golly, I've learned a little bit. And it's right there with God's amazing help. In spite of me, I was somehow able to resemble some level of a human being in compassion. When I was wronged, I'm not going to sue you. And I was able to walk away. God's grace there was present. So extend mercy or forgiveness. And at other times, it grants permission to simply grieve. This whole thing of grieving, Dave or Bob could talk about this, when we're around death and those who have lost death, we, just like everything else, guys, we try to fix it. We can't fix death. And what we, as men, as we gain a capacity and a grace operable into the mind of Christ, we're able to just enter in. We don't have to fix it. All we need to do is come alongside and to grieve the loss. Weep with those who weep, the scriptures say. This is what it's talking about. Not words, but presence. This is what the word "and" can do for us. So in our table time, we got a lot of time. That's good. Guys, we live at we couldn't be at a better place in history where we need to use this word "and." Our current life experience, living in Fort Collins, Colorado on May 5th, 2021, is one characterized by isolation, separation, and escalated antagonism resulting in violence. This is where we are as a culture. I'd like you guys to discuss in our table. We're going to go to table time. I'll join a group. In what way or ways can the power of "and" be used through you and me? Let's start there. Let's not talk about the US government today. Let's talk about you and let's talk about me. What can I do to bring some healing within my immediate world? What can I do? And how can I use "and" as a tool to do that? You and I have the capacity. We have the indwelling Spirit of Jesus Christ, the power of God within us. All we have to do is let go and begin to utilize the tool, the life, and the love that is within us to extend it to other people. So let's talk about that. I'm gonna stop the video and then we'll go to table time and have a great time. Then we'll come back.